Virtedco. My name is Colin Gano, and I represent Virtedco Business Consulting.
And I'm Jennifer Harriger. I represent the Virtedco Language Center.
Virtedco is a dynamic company offering a range of professional language training services in Korea. First, let me explain what the name Virtedco actually means. Virtedco stands for Virtual Education Consulting and has been providing premium language training services to both organizations and individual learners since its establishment in 2001.
So Colin, what are the premium language services that Virtedco provides?
Well Jen, currently Virtedco has three primary language programs. The first, Virtedco Business Consulting, or the VBC. For over 10 years, Virtedco Business Consulting has been providing language consultation and teaching to leading companies in Korea. The second is Virtedco Language Center, or the VLC. Established in 2002, the VLC is a premium English academy in Korea focused on providing friendly English conversation classes with skilled native English teachers. The third is our LangTalk program. LangTalk actually stands for Language Talking, and this is Virtedco's telephone English program. The benefit of LangTalk is to help busy people continue their language training over the phone in the most convenient way possible.
So Colin, what is the opening process for having a class with Virtedco Business Consulting?
Well Jen, first through careful consulting, Virtedco first determines a client's language needs. Virtedco performs consulting to establish a coherent strategy with our client. We then develop and provide a customized curriculum that matches those needs perfectly.
Well, why do organizations really need a VBC language program?
Well, people are so busy nowadays, and oftentimes members of companies cannot really afford the time to visit an English institution directly. Therefore, it's much more effective for those companies to have a teacher travel in-house to deliver language classes actually at their company. Jen, what type of students benefit most from the VLC?
Well, Virtedco students want to improve English language skills for their own special purposes. It may be for job interviews or position transfers, overseas school entrance, or self-development.
When a student first comes to Virtedco, what's the actual enrollment process?
Virtedco will provide a one-to-one consultation with each student, and the student will be informed of their correct language level. From there, the student will be able to choose the class schedule and program that best suits their needs.
That sounds good. What's truly special about the Virtedco Language Center?
Well, Virtedco has operated the VLC in Bundang for the past 10 years. Also, Virtedco only hires native English instructors to provide diverse teaching experiences to each student, as well as offering a flexible scheduling system that allows students to have class when the time is right for them.
Language classes with Virtedco Business Consulting are grouped into two major categories: group classes and one-to-one classes.
Yeah, let's talk about group classes first. There are 4 types of group classes offered: general conversation, business conversation, business skill, and focus workshops. First, general conversation classes may focus on a specific area, such as OPIC preparation, or a more general area with textbook conversation. Second, business conversation classes are taught with business textbooks and resources and specialize in enhancing students' confidence while speaking business English. Third, business skill classes focus on a specific area of business such as marketing, meetings, presentations, or negotiations. And lastly, workshops specialize on a specific topic such as cultural differences, leadership, and global marketing.
With Virtedco one-to-one classes, companies receive the most comprehensive approach to language learning possible, with the instructor working one-on-one with a client to quickly enhance their language skills. Virtedco currently offers 2 one-to-one programs. The first, Executive. The Executive one-to-one program pairs a Virtedco instructor with a business executive to maximize language learning efficiently and offers the most personalized approach to teaching possible. The second is our telephone English service. Introduced in 2001, Virtedco offers the LangTalk language program. Its purpose is scheduled telephone conversation classes with a native speaker to help busy people continue their learning.
So Colin, let's start off talking about the beginning of class, specifically the attendance and coming to class on time.
Absolutely, Jen. It sends the proper message to students at the start of class that you're on time, you're punctual. That sends the appropriate message to students to also be on time and punctual and really be mentally engaged in the lesson.
Sure, sure. What about the textbook, resources, and curriculum?
Yeah. Easily, sometimes the most overlooked part of class is to ensure that you prepared and invested the time in advance of class, that you have all resources, your textbook, your handouts, anything technical required at the start of class, you prepared for well in advance. That sends the right message to students that the teacher is also prepared and that the students should reciprocate that. Specifically, if you're working with anything technical, let's say an overhead projector to deliver a PowerPoint presentation, ensure that you talk with your HR manager or your account manager at Virtedco on how to actually operate that properly. Especially, we've all been there where something goes amiss during the class. Ensure that you've got a good contact point actually at your office that you can get in touch with immediately and get yourself back online if anything goes amiss.
Sure. Probably the most important point for the teachers is the lesson planning and time management.
Absolutely. You're teaching adults, remember. Adults are much more keen and aware of a teacher that's prepared for class, and this is the area of the lesson where the teacher truly shines. Again, invest time to mentally prepare on how you want to actually deliver the teaching objectives. They should be clearly communicated to the students in advance of class, and develop a lesson that builds on those core concepts. Invest the time necessary to ensure that you've rehearsed on how you want to explain activities, that the class lessons flow well, you've anticipated questions in advance of class, and again that everything flows very seamlessly and well during class.
Now, how about the last part? Passion.
Passion. Well, this is also the most critical part of teaching, and it is very much common sense. When you're in a classroom with adult learners, remember that they are sometimes timid and shy, especially at the lower levels. And remember that if you're a highly extroverted, very verbal person, but you're in class with maybe a lower level group of students who might be timid and shy, just bring your personality down a little bit to really match the energy of the classroom. On the other hand, if you're a rather introverted person and you're teaching high-level extroverted students, just raise your personality a little bit in class so that the energy is just right for the students you're teaching. All right, well Jen, now let's talk about class management and especially class flow.
Sure. Well, first is the warm-up. You want to start every class with ice-breaking activities, and this is to make the students comfortable in the class and to elicit dialogue. You want to prepare the students to fully involve themselves in the class material. You can ask questions like, how was your weekend? Or you can ask them about current events in the news.
Sounds good. Now talk about actually, after we've moved beyond the warm-up process, talk about delivering the actual core lesson.
Yes, the teacher must have a fully developed lesson that considers the learning objectives of the class. This includes the methodology for achieving language learning and for using a variety of resources that fit the lesson well. This is for the students' full engagement in the class. Second, questions should be continually directed at the students. This ensures two things: that full comprehension is occurring, and it allows the teacher to gauge the students' responses.
Yeah, that's a great point. Talk about that, the use of questions that the teacher can utilize in class. Talk about the different kind of questions.
Definitely. Closed-ended questions are typically used for lower level students and for building their confidence in class. Then, for higher level students, you can use open-ended questions. This increases their fluency and helps with their language proficiency.
Great. Now that we've moved beyond the core lesson, talk about the actual wrap-up.
Yes, the wrap-up is the most important part of the class, and it's where time management skills are crucial. The teacher should leave the last 5 to 10 minutes of class for reinforcing the key points of the lesson. Repetition is key here. Giving students the chance to ask questions is also important when they might not have the opportunity to ask questions before. Remember your time management at this point and always leave the last few minutes of class available for the students.
Now we're going to talk about the teaching methodology of Virtedco. Virtedco prides itself on having a unique methodology that has been developed for you, the teacher, to help you really relay and be the most effective teacher that you can be in class. The ultimate goal, of course, is to maximize quality of learning in the classroom. How do we accomplish that? Well, Virtedco achieves this methodology using 3 primary teaching objectives. The first, active emulation. The second, contextual recognition. The third, creative repetition. So those are some rather fancy words. Let me break them down and explain them to you a little bit more. The first step, active emulation. This is when you're introducing new learning elements to the class and allowing students to, first of all, after you've warmed up with them, allow them to become comfortable with these new, for example, vocabulary, grammar, colloquial expressions for more advanced students. Allow them to just interpret them and become familiar with them before you move on to the next step. What I love to do with all levels of students, whether they're basic or intermediate or higher level, is to do simple read and repeat. Even for higher level students, this gets them speaking together, even the shy ones speaking out loud, and can really instill some confidence in your students. The second is contextual recognition. So what does that mean? Well, after learning these new elements in isolation, the next logical step is for teachers to recognize those elements in context. Now, what I love to do with students, and what is very popular, of course, in all types of learning materials, is to allow students to read a dialogue and recognize the vocabulary in context. So it could be a simple conversation. This relays a practical understanding of what they're actually learning, what the vocabulary really means in context. It allows, and what you can do is reinforce these activities with, for example, a gap fill, a multiple choice following the dialogue. While students are working on that, don't just hang back. I mean, be confident, get around the classroom and circulate, kind of peek and see how students are doing. Are they really comprehending the material? That allows you to kind of develop a one-on-one relationship with the students as well, which is always important. The third element, creative repetition. This is what we call a capstone learning activity, which all lessons should include. And what I love to do is get students working in teams on this. Even lower level students, you can give them a very simple task, such as creating a dialogue. So they've learned some vocabulary, some expressions, and they've been developed in class. Now give them an opportunity to really show you that they understand them and that they can develop something creatively. You could ask students to work in pairs and develop a conversation, a dialogue about two people going to the supermarket, for example. There's some drama, something bad happens, and then they overcome that. But the key is that you are asking students to utilize the actual elements in the conversation. For your confident groups of students, of course, they can present that to the rest of the class. I mean, doing this is essential because it gives students the confidence to utilize that new language when they're actually out in the working world.
There are essentially two parties that the Virtedco teacher will communicate with. The teacher must be continually mindful of the process of teaching classes while under contract with Virtedco. Ultimately, the satisfaction of our clients will correspond directly with the satisfaction of the students. Korean students are accustomed to listening intently while respecting the teacher's right to speak during majority of the class. But the goal of language learning at Virtedco is to reduce TTT, or teacher talk time, and maximize the students' practical usage of the language. We always seek to encourage students to speak as much as possible while building their confidence in the process. You might ask, what are some common traits of Korean students? Well, they are usually always waiting for feedback, but not active or aggressive. So what can we do? We can actively call students' names and directly check their understanding. We can also ask questions equally and lead the class in a positive, productive manner. The second party that the teacher will communicate with on a regular basis is the Virtedco account manager. The account manager's responsibility is to support the teacher fully in their efforts to teach an effective class. They will assist in every way as possible. When in doubt of a situation, you should always contact your Virtedco account manager.
Alright teachers, here we are back at the front desk at Virtedco in Sohyun, and we hope that this training video was really helpful for you today.
And keep in mind, we should be anticipating each and every class. The Virtedco teacher should be able to recognize questions in advance and be able to answer them efficiently and effectively.
Yeah, right. It's a great point because we want to spend just a couple of moments before class really mentally preparing. Sometimes that goes the longest way towards being fully prepared. Remember that you're teaching adults and they recognize the teacher that's fully prepared. Also, recognize unexpected situations. I think by reflecting on the class before it actually happens, you can anticipate questions or even the class flow the best. And lastly, we want to wish you the very best with your teaching contract with Virtedco.
Keep in mind, if you have any technical issues or other problems, always be in contact with your Virtedco account manager.